Hello, this is Suzanne Long, accounting professor with Jackson College. Today we're going to be working on variance analysis, and this is the whole file. There's really three parts to this file: the gray section, which is the information provided, the blue section, which is some discussion we're going to have afterwards, and this multicolor section over here to the right. This is really the solution to the problem. All of these files are formatted to print. So if you were to print this one, it would look kind of like this. You've got the gray section, the blue section, and our three variances that we're going to work on today. So like a lot of things in accounting, I think the best way to go about this is to do it and talk about it as we're doing it. So let's get started. We are going to analyze materials, labor, and overhead. Those three categories I'm sure are sounding familiar. Those are the three cost categories for manufacturing product costs: materials, labor, overhead. Notice that we're doing variable overhead, and there are more. There are more overhead variances. So if you do get into further accounting coursework, and depending on what jobs you take on, you may see additional overhead variances. Within each one, you're going to see these calculations flowing through, and we'll compare at the bottom. A variance is a difference. It's a difference between what we planned and what actually happened. And you'll see these abbreviations here. So like actual quantity versus standard quantity. What actually happened versus the standard or the plan or the budget. And then you'll see, some of the words written out up here. So some of this is abbreviated and some of this is not. A is actual, S is standard. In the middle here is kind of a combination in between actual and standard. And as we go along, we'll be talking more about all these abbreviations and whatnot. All right, let's see what we've got over here. Direct cost, which is direct materials and direct labor, and standards. So this top box is all standard information. Middle box is just one piece of information about overhead. And then the last box has a little bit of everything in here. This is actual information. Purchased and used is actual. Labor, this is actual. Overhead, yep. So this is all actual down here. Might even want to add in here standard, and actual. Sometimes it's all mixed up, but in this case, we've got two separate areas: standard, actual. All right, let's take a look at materials variances. What were the variances? What were the differences between what actually happened versus our plan or our standard for what was supposed to happen? We're looking for actual quantity first. Actual was down here. Actual quantity. Direct materials purchased and used 92,000 pounds. So actual quantity is 92,000. Why don't we stick right here for a minute? Actual price is $10.95. The next one is, and I hit enter and there was already a formula in there, so it just did it for me. Actual quantity, 92,000, we already figured that out, so same here. And then we get into the standards. So let's go look at the standards. That was this top box for direct materials. And we've got this, and we've got, let's put the price in because that's clear, $11.25. Oh, notice that. Our plan was to spend $11.25 per pound, but we only had to spend $10.95 per pound. Now that might not seem like a big difference, but look at all these pounds. I mean, that's going to add up, right? So, yeah, why is that? Why did we spend less than we thought we were going to spend? All right, standard price, $11.25. And now we need standard quantity. This one's a little bit more challenging. Standard materials, this is the information right here. 7.5 pounds of material per output unit. How many did we produce? Output. That was down here, annual production. So we've got 7.5 pounds per unit, and there's 13,000 units, so we need to multiply. 7.5 pounds times 13,000 units will tell us how many pounds we were planning on using. Equals 7.5 times 13,000. Remember, that's 7.5 per unit and total units, and combine, and you can see the formula up here. All right, so you multiply to get them come down, and you see that formula there. Multiply and multiply. And then we're going to compare these two. So we're going to compare right there. Which one's bigger? This one's bigger. So I'm going to start with that one. Equals this one minus this one. I want the variance. I want to know what is the difference. The difference between these two numbers, or the variance, is 27,600. And then I have to say, is it favorable or unfavorable? So if I compare these two boxes, the 92,000 is the same. The one that was different was that price number, right? We actually spent less than we were planning on, so that's a favorable difference. So that's the materials price variance. Let's come over here. Which one's bigger? This one's bigger, so I'm going to start with that one. Again, I want the difference, and I want to describe it as favorable or unfavorable. Okay, the price is the same, so we're comparing the quantity. And again, favorable. We used less than we were planning on using. What's up with that? And then the total is, in this case, we've got two favorables, so you're going to add them together. One favorable plus another favorable equals a bigger favorable. So that's our total materials variance. And notice that I left any formatting off of those numbers. I went back and forth and decided it looked a little cleaner this way, but you could certainly add in some formatting, dollar signs, commas, whatever you like. All right, that's the materials variance. Let's keep going. We'll do the last section last. Labor variance. Actual hours. Okay, actual was down here. Actual labor. Here's hours. Actual labor hours, 43.50. And stay right there. Actual rate, $22.50 per hour. Actual hours here, same. And then we're going to look at standard. Come up here, labor, standard. Standard per hour, that's an easier one. Let's get that in. Standard rate, 22. So the rates are really close. Look at that. $22 per hour versus $22.50 per hour. So just a hair higher than planned. Standard hours, like this one, we're probably going to have to do a calculation. Yep. So here's labor, here's the standard. It's supposed to take 0.3 hours of labor time per output unit, per item that we produced or manufactured. So we need 0.3 times 13,000. All right, let's get that in there. Equals 0.3 times 13,000. And by the way, when you enter these in, like right here, I get these three numbers. They should all be sort of kind of in the same ballpark. Like if this one came out to like $3 million or something, I'd be like, whoa, hang on a second. Or if it came out to like, $700, I'm like, hang on a second. But these are all, kind of sort of in the same range. Same thing here. We got a little over $1 million. We got, just under 100,000. All right, let's do our combining. Which one's bigger? This one's bigger than this one. And was it favorable? Oh, yeah, this was the unfavorable. Just a little bit, but our average labor rate was $22.50 per hour, and we were planning on 22, so that's unfavorable. Let's do this one. Which one's bigger? Okay, well, this one's definitely bigger. And the 22 is the same. Oh, look at that. Our actual hours were quite a bit higher than our plan, so that's another unfavorable. Interesting. All the materials variances came out favorable, and all the labor came out unfavorable. So to do the total, we've got an unfavorable plus another unfavorable equals a bigger unfavorable. And then relatively speaking, look at that, like almost 90,000 favorable versus 12,000. I mean, we're still coming out ahead, so to speak here. Okay, and the last one, overhead. What are we told about overhead? I'm going to do a little timeout here. We've got actual overhead right here. And then we've got this note here, which is a standard $9.50 per direct labor hour. That's all we've got. So total variable manufacturing overhead is $32,750. So this actual, they gave us, like the final answer, they gave us this. We don't have the two things to multiply. We just have the total. That's fine. And then we've got this, $9.50 per labor hour. So the standard rate is $9.50. And then we need labor hours. So we come up here to pull down labor hours, standard labor hours and actual labor hours. Oops, 43. Got an extra 0 in there. Oh wait, let me put it back. So this is what I actually typed. I've got an extra 0 in there. And see how this is 400,000, but these other ones are like 30,000? Yeah, so that would be like, whoa, hang on a second. Yeah, I've got an extra 0 in there. Okay, that's more like it. Okay, let's find our differences. Which one's bigger? This one. And this is pure actual. So actual compared to the standard, we did better. And which one's bigger? 950s. Oh, but this one we did worse. And just like up here, you know, the hours are worse. So this is going to be the same. The hours are worse. And then to combine, now we've got a favorable and an unfavorable. So we can't just combine them. We have to compare them. So we have more favorable than unfavorable. So we're going to have favorable here. The favorable 85.75 is reduced by the unfavorable 42.75. So we end up with 4,300. So it's a subtraction when you have different ones. So we, you know, favorable is going to win. There's more favorable, but, you know, you got to subtract to see where you end up. So overall, you know, things look pretty good. You know, almost 90,000 favorable, relatively speaking. These, you know, the unfavorable is smaller, and then there's another little bit of favorable here. So overall, these look, you know, kind of positive. But over here in the blue, I'm saying, I'm just playing around. I'm just saying, you know, well, what does this mean? You know, what does this mean? So materials. So if we look at materials, you know, the 92s, you know, we're comparing price, and our price was less and our usage was less. Why is that? So I was just, you know, before I worked on this, I threw in some ideas. Why would the price be lower? Well, one idea is maybe we have a new vendor and that new vendor offered us some introductory rate special pricing kind of thing, something like that. Maybe that's why the rate was a little bit lower. Maybe. The point is, when you get this variance report out, then there's some work to do. You go back to the team meeting and say, all right, what's going on? You go walk the manufacturing floor and start talking to people and collecting information. What's really happening? And so the variance report is an indicator. It's like a trigger. Like, okay, what's happening in our manufacturing process with materials? So as these variance reports come out, then there's the discussion, which could lead to, oh, well, let's see what's going on with this contract with this vendor, and then that could lead to another team meeting with the purchasing department. And so, you know, you might be the cost accountant running the variance numbers, but that then leads to some collaborative work throughout the company, you know, with both the manufacturing side and then in this case, maybe with the purchasing side. Okay, and then we saw the quantity was lower. Why are we using less? And so my idea was maybe we're using better quality materials. I don't know if you've ever worked on a project around the house, but if you go with cheap materials, sometimes things break, you know, and then you got to buy more to do it. And maybe these are, you know, this new vendor, you know, maybe it's slightly better materials. And the result is we have less scrap, we have less waste. We're just, you know, overall using less material as well. So those are just some ideas on that. Of course, we don't know. This problem doesn't tell us. The point is that we would go and find out. This would be an indicator to go find out why are we using less than we planned. Let's look at labor. Remember, the labor rate was just a tad bit higher, but the hours were more than they were supposed to be. So these were my ideas on that. Why would the rate be higher? Maybe we have a little bit less turnover, and so we don't have as many new people at lower labor rates. So we got a few more people at higher labor rates. Maybe that turnover effect was enough to push the average up just a little bit. And then why are we spending more time? Okay, well, if we have more experienced people, maybe those are the people that, like kind of have a bad attitude. That was what I put in here. Like, they've been around, maybe a little jaded, maybe go about things a little slower. Maybe that's it. Again, you get the variance report and you're like, well, what's going on here? And so this could be discussions with employees, it could be focus groups, it could be walking around the manufacturing floor trying to just get the word on the street kind of information. But it could also lead to some serious discussions with HR and policy and what's happening with the labor force. Again, looking at these numbers, it doesn't look like things are too out of whack, but they are a little out of whack here as far as hours go. There is an issue. Is this a long time issue? Is this a new issue? Is this not a big deal? Maybe it is a big deal. And then overhead. What's going on with overhead? How come our actual, is basically lower than either the full standard plan or the mixed, analysis? So I tried to come up with an idea, like, okay, this is variable overhead. So I was thinking maybe indirect labor. Like, okay, maybe somebody left. Like, let's just say the quality control person left, and the company hasn't replaced him yet. And so somebody else is doing his job. Somebody's doing two jobs, and they haven't replaced the one guy yet, or girl. That certainly happens. It's affected me. It's probably affected you before on the job too. Somebody's gone and everybody else is kind of absorbing that work. Well, that means the business is not paying that salary or wages. So maybe that's why actual variable overhead is a little bit lower. So this part in the light blue, comes out a little bit in the homework, but this is really the juicy part. This is the okay, what's really going on here? What are we going to use this information for? So this is, I think, kind of the interesting part. The variance work that you're going to do is kind of crunching numbers and, you're interpreting here to get things in the right place here. But this is kind of number crunching stuff. This is more analysis and thinking and talking and discussing and working with other people and collaborating and developing management strategy across different areas of the company. I mean, this to me is kind of the cool part. So that's pretty much it for variances. What I'm showing you is the method or the approach that makes the most sense to me. It's very visual. I'm going to show you real quick the way the author likes to do it in a table. And there's a file that I posted that shows a comparison of all these different presentations. I really don't care for this approach. This kind of almost like a flowchart approach just is very intuitive to me. Like, take these two, multiply them together. Okay, compare this one with this one, find the difference. This to me just is so much easier to do the work, organize the work, and analyze the responses, the results. So I don't really care how you do it. Pick the method that works for you. I'm recommending this one. If you're not sure, go ahead and use this one. Lots of students over the years have had good luck, good experience using this method or this presentation that I'm sharing with you today. So that's it for us for variance work. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.